Hello and welcome to the Cisco DevNet channel. My name is Oleksii, and in this video we will discuss SRE and DevOps at DevNet with Matt Shooshtari, DevNet SRE Technical Leader. It's a real pleasure to have you here, Shush. We are all excited to hear about your career path and role.
Thank you for having me. I've started by helping people with technology needs probably since I was little, from hooking up stereos to hooking up cloud stuff. And some of the biggest parts for me were, when I was in the Air Force, being able to help different teams upgrade their computers to, Windows 2000 from NT. And then later on, being able to help teams with build environments, deploying things to the cloud and, helping startups with new software. And all of these things sort of led me towards how do I automate? How do I improve? How do I get time for myself to do these projects? And how do I help teams become successful? So that's, kind of a lot of different evolution for me. And, through my course of working at startups, I met some great people that worked at Cisco, and they wanted me to come help on some of their projects as well. And I've actually been here probably as long as most of my other career, just because there are so many great things to work on and exciting projects. You never get bored. So I'm happy to be here, and it's been a really great career.
Yeah, amazing journey, Shush. And let's jump and talk a little bit about DevNet, DevOps, and SRE practice. How big is our DevNet cluster, and which services do we have? What challenges do we face in scaling and managing it?
Yep. So we have for our production cluster, it's fairly large. We have 13 MX large 5 nodes, and we have those across 3 availability zones. On there, we have 191 deployments. So these are, different Kubernetes workloads. All of them are defined with Helm charts. I think some of the challenges that we have managing this infrastructure is that it's grown very organically. And so, there are some things on there that may be used, may not be used, but we're really trying to kind of, in the progress of understanding it, make sure that everything is sized correctly, everything runs as efficiently as it can, and that we have the right high availability, that workloads are distributed. We want to spend time on the items that are running and working, and try to remove some of the other things that aren't. So I think that's the biggest challenge for us, and it leads us towards better security practice and, of course, cost savings.
Yeah, this is cool. And what tools and technologies do we use to automate our workflows, and how do they improve efficiency in our SRE and DevOps progress?
So a lot of the tools that we have are very traditional. So we have Helm as a product for building Kubernetes workloads. We do have a product internally grown. It's called Shen, that we use for deploying these workloads to our Kubernetes clusters. These are EKS clusters. And when we do the deployment, this tool is really, it'll show you what services there are, and it's very much like Argo CD. What impresses me the most about this particular tool, and I'll, when we go to the demo section, I'll show it there, is that this was created, before Argo CD. And so it doesn't quite have some of the features and functionality that you'd like, but it actually works very well. And it does allow developers to, make changes to the Helm manifest, change the version of the applications that they're using, and then, of course, assign those newer versions to the cluster to be deployed. So it really streamlines that workflow. Of course, for getting the containers, building the software, we use traditional tools like Jenkins. We, use GitHub, of course. We pull the source, we build it. We deploy with Docker containers. We store those Docker containers in Amazon's registry. We also have some a Cisco registry that we store containers in as well. So depending on where we need to consume them, we store them closest to that location.
Yeah, maybe you can show to our audience some tools that we use.
Yeah, sure thing. So let me get this shared real quick. All right. So here is the Shen tool. And so when you log on, you'll see, these are the clusters that we have. You'll see that, we have our different environments, staging, integration, a backup cluster. We have clusters that run the Cisco Learning Labs, production environment, and then, of course, a backup production cluster that allows us a place to fail over to if we need to have that. And then as we go, this dashboard gives you a good view of, the services that are running, the total number of services, some of the health about those. It gives us a little bit about what's been updated. So you can see that these particular services have been updated recently. And then this is a nice diagram of, what does the whole landscape look like for these services. As we go here, this gives you a look at, the tiles. So I want to say, here is a service here, if it's healthy or not. You can get information about it. So if we look at the service details, you'll see information about the pods that are running, information about, any tests and things like that. So when you look at this, it's again very much like Argo CD, but very cool that it was developed before that. For me, before I joined the DevNet team, I hadn't heard of it, and I was wondering, well, what is that? Is it like Argo CD? I'm like, no, we've had this for a while, and seeing it, it's actually very cool software. So that's that part, and of course, GitHub. We just use GitHub for repositories. We have an internal GitHub that we use for that, and then we're able to build with Jenkins, deploy to the container registry, and then pick those up here into our EKS environment.
Yeah, I have some. And which security and monitoring tools do you use to manage all this?
Oh, excellent. So, as I went through, a lot of this was monitored manually. And when you saw this, it took a lot of human hours to, check something, audit something, present evidence for this. And as I was doing this audit process, we looked and, there was a tool, Git Guardian, that had been used in other organizations. But when working with our build environment security partner team, they said, well, we have a tool that we use. It's called Legit Security. And I was like, okay, what is this tool? And not only does it do the same things where, it's checking for leaked credentials, it's checking for access to repositories, it's going to make sure that your builds and the way that your source code, that you have least privilege access to it. But it also interacts with your container registries. It plugs into Jenkins, and it gives you a complete view of, what's going on in your build pipeline from source to production, which, that helps us quite a bit. And so that tool is legit. And, here's an example of the dashboard. Let's see if I can get this zoomed in like this. But, again, it tells you about, what's going on with your secrets, how to prioritize them, what source control branches and everything they might be in. And how this tool helped us is when we were doing the audit and we were doing this manual process, it was a lot of checking each and every repository. We have, many repositories at DevNet, and to take screenshots and analyze each of these repositories individually, it would have taken months, just constant work, and nothing else would have gotten done. And so by employing the tool Legit Security, we're able to go and, bring all of that evidence collection, all of that compliance, and meet our compliance goals, and got done ahead of time. In fact, we heard a lot of positive feedback about how we were able to get this done so quickly. And we owe that to the relationship with the build environment security team and their recommendation and help in setting up this Legit tool. So that to us was a boon. Let's see here. Those ones are for the AI. We'll go over those after you want. I'm not sure. I'm not hearing you at this point.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shush. Yeah, AI agents and Gen AI technologies is trending now. I'm wondering, how do you adapt and utilize them in your daily job?
Yeah. So in my daily job, we're looking at, manual work that comes in. We still get requests from engineers that need help with access, troubleshooting. We get requests from, compliance teams to produce evidence. We get requests from other teams for, adding access for security tools. And then, of course, we need to audit our environment as, as staff members change, as our, security landscape changes. And that could take a lot of time. We're a very small team, so it's myself and Jerry. And it takes us, quite a bit of time to keep in touch with all this landscape. And so as we were looking at this, we also had a request for, let's do some agentic things. And what we came up with was doing a SRE agent we're calling Sierra. And Sierra is helpful because all of our knowledge base and documentation, things that we put in there, which is, how do we do things? Where does this information exist? Where does that information exist? It's all consolidated now in Sierra. So, you don't have to worry about, do I have that link? Do I have this? Where am I going to find that? That's actually the first challenge that we had, and we have solved with Sierra by bringing that knowledge in and ingesting that into RAG for our agents. The second set of things that we have are frequent audits. So, we have a lot of things in our Git source control, making sure that access to internal and external teams matches what is supposed to be there. And we don't often know if team members that are, in other teams or sister teams or in partners that we work with, whether or not those accounts are active, not active, if they've changed teams, if they no longer have a need to access that source control. We don't get that information in real time, and it's very hard to ensure that the security is met. So what we're doing now with Sierra is we're using the MCP Model Context Protocol tool, and we're going to integrate with GitHub. And then we're also going to write our own MCP tool, our own MCP server, to interface with Cisco's Active Directory or LDAP. And so by using those tools, our Sierra agent will be able to check the manifest of users in source control and verify that against the manifest of users who should be in a particular group. And if they are active employees, if they are in certain groups, now this agent can go and ensure that the manifest or the access reflects the employees that should be there. This was something that may take a full-time job for somebody. And now Sierra is able to perform that full-time job on our behalf. And as we go through, we're going to expand and do more and more things with Sierra. So here I have a couple of things. I've asked Sierra, I said, tell me about the DevNet SRE team. And then, of course, it's able to use RAG and then quickly summarize that. And then I said, based on context. DevNet uses these tools. It talks about an automation repo. This is GitHub. We do secret rotation. It's telling us where in our internal repository we have that process. It talks about where we renew certificates. And of course, Cisco's internal vault that we use. So these things, it's all information, but if you have a new hire, if you're busy working on one project or another and you need that information, Sira's going to be able to provide it. It's just it's like having a personal assistant and having staff at the same time. So I really love it. It's fun to work on, and my colleague Jerry, he's done a great job in helping to develop this interface and some of the things where it's making our lives really that much better.
Yeah, let's have some example. You have some database with all this available, like ticketing, access, all DevOps and SRE information, and you utilize retrieval augmented generation and utilize, as I see, open access model to help you to navigate through all this information and complete related task. Am I right?
That's correct. Yep. And we've been, as part of the audit process, and as we go through resolving these issues, we're documenting, all of this process. Right now, we're documenting it, in Word documents, in wikis. We're ingesting wikis that we have. We're ingesting SharePoint that we have. But we want to also add Asana, which is our project management tool. This is very much like Jira, but it's something that is different for me. I've used Jira in the past, but Asana is like Jira, and I think there's an opportunity to ingest that data as well. So not only could Sira, collect data from there and be able to improve responses and understand solutions, but Sira could also work as a personal assistant and could help remind you and say, what does my schedule look like? How should I prioritize tasks that I have, based on the due dates? And it would be able to understand, this is what your quarterly plan looks like. These are the tasks that you have scheduled, and help you get those things done. I think, for me, I've got a little bit of ADHD, and having a colleague like Sira help me, is immeasurable. So I'm appreciative of that. And, as I go through, I'm trying to lean on our automation and AI tools as much as possible.
Yeah, let's have some examples. Thanks for sharing this. We released a lot of new features like summarization and AI assistants in our AI docs, or new features in learning labs. I'm interested how CI/CD process looks these days now.
Yes. So currently we're using Jenkins, and we're going to be moving from one internal hosted Jenkins to a different one, which has a little bit more capability. But as we're doing this, we are looking at doing this AI first, so that when you want builds, when you want to initiate a build or change some features in a build, that rather than going to the Jenkins portal, you'll be able to use a MCP tool in conjunction with Sira Agent to make those changes, to give you information about a build, to initiate a build, to tell you about the artifacts for a build, and also if you have some failures in your build, to tell you, where did this build fail? So many times development teams that I've worked with have looked and, they see a big, a build log in Jenkins, and maybe, somewhere in there's 2 or 3 lines that actually mean this is why the build failed. Whether it's an access problem, whether it's a compilation problem, whether it's an integration test problem. And, being a DevOps engineer, you're always asked, my build failed. I got a message that my build failed. Why did my build fail? And so I would like, Sierra or a different agent, depending, to be able to not just, interact with that, but to tell you in plain English or in the language that you might use why that build failed and help you understand how to fix it. I think that would be a huge accelerator. And of course, the opportunity I see in moving Jenkins from one system to another is that we can do it in an agent first method.
Yeah, I have some thanks for mentioning about this. Yeah, we have 3-4 minutes left. Maybe there is something else that you want to share with audience.
Yeah, so I think as I've worked with the DevNet SRE team, I found that really the team is fantastic. There are so many opportunities. They've been a small team, and they've done a lot of things to, get done what they need to do it very, very efficiently. And I think, what I found that I can help and bring to the team and, and work on this collaboration is I can help write these MCP tools. I can help with the prompt engineering because I have some understanding of, how to interact with customers on getting the tools to do what they need to have done. I've been doing this, I think, most of my career, as I talked about, from helping people hook up stereos to building computer images for military workstations, all the way to of course, helping build cloud systems and automate with YAML languages or with Python. And so this is just taking it a little bit further now, where the tool is MCP. It's designed in an agentic way. So rather than a human interfacing with the tool, it presents itself in a way that an agent can interface with it. And then given the right prompts and understanding of what developers and what teams need, you're able to accomplish something great. And so I'm really happy to be part of the team, really happy to be able to bring this acceleration and help the team have a really good experience, with their platform, with their development. So that, I think, is the one of the greatest things about being on the DevNet SRE team.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you, Shush, for sharing this information with our audience. Thank you again.
No worries. Take care. Bye-bye.